Pursuing a career in a less than stable industry will naturally elicit some anxiety. And even for those musicians who are not necessarily striving to be professionals, I believe that there's a sense of fear that we all deal with. This fear takes shape in a number of different ways with a number of different root sources. In today's vlog, we're going to look at the fear musicians face and how we can deal with it. Whatever art you create, in some way or another, it's a reflection of you. The beauty of creating art is that it gives us the opportunity to take something intangible, our emotions, and turn it into something physical. Whether that be a song, a poem, a painting, it's an outlet for the feelings we have inside. And because of this nature, most art is quite personal. When sharing an intimate part of our being, it makes sense that we would fear rejection. Because of this, some people are hesitant to expose their music to the world. There are a couple things to remember here. Now, in my experience, there are very few people who will go out of their way to hurt someone or make someone feel bad. I've been to numerous songwriting circles, and I've seen countless pieces of music shared on social media. It's incredibly rare to read comments or hear critiques that are mean for the sake of being mean. If you do come across that, that doesn't reflect poorly on you, it reflects on that other person. Don't let your fear of running into one asshole prevent you from exposing your music to all the people who would enjoy it. There's also a sense of fear that prevents people from creating music to begin with. It's the idea that this art that we would need to pour so much into to create would largely be ignored, in which case, why even bother making it? This is a valid concern, and in a world where the barriers of entry are so low, there's a lot of white noise out there. But you really need to think about why you're making music. I'm fortunate enough right now to have built a career around sharing my creations. When I make a music video, I want and expect it to be consumed. However, this was by no means always the case. I spent a long time working up to that, and all the music that I created when I was younger that was mostly ignored was crucial in my development. I honed my writing techniques, my guitar skills, my production, pouring my heart and soul into music that no one will ever care about. That was the training ground that provided me with the tools that I have now. So you can't expect the first things you create to gain you instant recognition. And if you're putting off creating music for one reason or another, you'll never develop fully musically. Hey, and if you do fail to reach your goals, dust yourself off, do it again. I believe a large part of success is sticking with something long after the point where most would have given up. This fear of being ignored should not be part of our psyche because first and foremost, we need to enjoy the process of creation. If you're making music with the only goal of gaining fame and fortune, you're barking up the wrong tree. You gotta love the process, and you need to be able to make music for yourself before you can expect others to love it too. Now, on the other side of things, there's also the fear of success, which seems counterintuitive, but it does exist. Here's a personal anecdote. When I first started making YouTube videos, I wanted more than anything for this channel to succeed. My career was in its infancy, I wasn't making much money, and I didn't really have any musical accomplishments to my name. This was the biggest source of my displeasure, but there were also other non-musical things stewing below the surface. During this time, there is no doubt that there was part of me that feared success. Looking back, I can see why. I was hoping that success in music would be that one thing that made me completely happy. I was afraid that if it didn't, I would have to deal with all those other underlying issues. I've since dealt with those things and learned that happiness is multifaceted. You can't rely on one single thing. Fear of success ultimately stems from an unhealthy mindset. If I'm afraid that success, for example, might change the relationships I have with my friends, well, are those relationships really all that great if your achievements would ruin them? Have you surrounded yourself with people who only like you when you're down? Or maybe you're just being a little overly self-conscious. And maybe you're worried that success will change you for the worse. In which case, maybe you need to spend some time solidifying and defining yourself as a person. A well-grounded person surrounded with good people has no reason to fear success. To wrap things up, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the fears that I face and how I deal with them. I have a small worry that one day people like you might just get sick of the content that I create and stop watching. To deal with this, I tell myself that all I can do is stay true to myself. I've grown an audience creating content that I love. If I stick with that principle, people will keep coming. If they don't, I can't control that, and there's no need to dwell on something that I can't influence. At times, I've also wondered if I'll run out of ideas. I remind myself that this hasn't happened yet, and I need to stay confident in my creativity. If it happens, I'll deal with it, but there's no point in worrying about a non-existent problem. I also worry about money, which is something that I can assume most people in the world can relate to. I tell myself that as my career progresses, ideally this will become less and less of a concern. But at the end of the day, I make music for a living. I'm my own boss. My career is pretty great and I love my life. Trading that in for a job with more financial security is absolutely not worth it. I hope you guys have taken something away from this. Whatever fear you're facing, you can come to terms with it too. Don't let it prevent you from doing what you want to do. It's a cliched saying, but it's better to regret doing something you poured your heart into and failed than regret not doing something at all. I've spent a fair bit of time actively working on the relationship with myself as well as the music I create. This journey began roughly 10 years ago when I read the book Zen Guitar. Let me tell you, if Oprah's audience was guitarists, she would be plugging the hell out of this book. It's kind of a self-help book of sorts geared towards musicians. In my opinion, it can really help get you on the path of developing a healthy mindset. I've got an Amazon link to it down in the description. Do yourself a favor, check it out. Thank you so much for watching. These videos are made possible by those people who support me on Patreon. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you want to check out another video, you should be seeing a link right now. I'm Samurai Guitarist, thank you again, and I'll see you next time.